Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast aimed at intermediate to advanced level English learners. Reading is an incredibly important skill to learn and improve for all language students. You can build your vocabulary and grammar knowledge, discover new facts about different cultures and history, and enjoy yourself at the same time. It can be scary and frustrating when trying to choose your first English book. So in this episode, I'm going to give you 5 classic novel recommendations that are all available as graded readers designed for English learners. But first, why not follow the Thinking in English Instagram page, Thinking in English podcast, or the link is in the description. And you should look at our blog, thinkinginenglish.blog, for all transcripts and bonus content. Here is today's vocabulary list. As always, the written list is available in the description of the podcast and also on our blog, thinkinginenglish.blog. To underestimate. To underestimate. This means to fail to guess or understand the real cost, size, difficulty, etc. of something. For example, they've seriously underestimated the cost of the building project. Rewarding. Rewarding. Giving out a reward, especially by making you feel satisfied that you have done something important or useful, or done something well. So, for example, teaching is a really rewarding career. Accomplishment. Accomplishment. An accomplishment is something that is successful or that is achieved after a lot of work and effort. So, for example, there's a feeling of accomplishment formed having a job and all that goes with it. To simplify. To simplify. To make something less complicated and therefore easier to understand. For example, he tried to simplify the story for younger audiences. To grade. To grade. To grade means to separate people or things into different levels or levels of quality or size, importance, etc. For example, the fruit is washed and then graded by size. Satire. Satire. Satire is a way of criticizing people or ideas in a funny way, especially in order to make a political point. Or we can also describe a piece of writing that uses this style as satire. Her play was a satire on life in the 1980s. And finally, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly is used to emphasize that something is true. For example, she was undoubtedly the best candidate. The more that you read, the more you'll know. The more that you know, the more places you'll go. Dr. Seuss. I couldn't agree more with this quote. You cannot underestimate the importance of reading. In our modern world, it seems like fewer and fewer people are reading books. Why do we need to pick up a book when we can sit back, relax, and watch a few episodes of a Netflix show or a YouTube channel? We can spend hours scrolling through our social media feeds, watching TikToks, or playing video games. But despite this, reading is still incredibly popular. In fact, due to the various coronavirus lockdowns in the UK, people in the UK are currently reading more and more books than ever before. For English learners, reading is an excellent way of improving your language skills. Reading is rewarding. If you can read and understand a novel in a foreign language, it is a massive achievement. It can give you a feeling of accomplishment and really boost your confidence. Reading English novels will also help you improve your vocabulary, general understanding, and in some cases, it may even give you more knowledge into different countries and their cultures. You can also decide your own pace. Podcasts, TV shows, radio shows, these are all excellent ways of studying, but you have to keep up with the show's English speed. While reading a book, however, you can read as quickly or slowly as you want. And if you don't understand something, you can read it again. Moreover, reading will open your mind and educate you. It is an excellent way to understand someone's way of thinking. You may learn new information about language, culture, society, and history that you never knew before. And finally, reading is fun. It is an enjoyable and often relaxing way to study English. In fact, often reading doesn't even feel like studying. It is clear that reading is something all English language students should do. However, many people really struggle to get started. It can be difficult to choose what book to start with, and really frustrating if you choose a book that is too advanced for your level. I've done this before. I picked up a Japanese book from the shelf, wanted to read it, opened the first page. After 2 paragraphs, I never read any more. It was far too difficult for my level. But don't worry, I'm here to help. In the rest of this episode, I'm going to recommend 5 different English books, all classic novels, that I think would be great for you to read. There are lots of similar recommendation lists on the internet, but this list is a little different. Each of the books I will recommend is available as a graded reader. Graded readers, or sometimes just readers, are books that have had the language level simplified to help learners read them. The language in the books is graded for vocabulary, complexity of grammar, and also by the length of the books. Graded readers are available in levels ranging from beginners to advanced, and some popular brands include Penguin, which will be featured in this episode, Pearson, and Cambridge. So, after hearing my description of the books, you can select the one that you think is most interesting and decide whether you want to try reading the full native English version or a version aimed at English as a second language students. I'll include links to all of the books mentioned in the podcast description and on the Thinking in English blog. Most of the books are very affordable and available to download as a Kindle ebook on the free Amazon Kindle app. In fact, I think some of the older books are actually free to download as ebooks. As an Amazon associate, I will earn from any qualifying purchases. So if you buy anything using my links, you will be helping to support the podcast. Also, do not feel embarrassed about reading a graded reader. One of my students, who actually inspired this episode, decided she wanted to start reading earlier this year. Although her English level is excellent, she was a little nervous about reading in English, as it was a skill she had barely practiced. I recommended her a few graded readers, and over the last few months, she has moved from a very basic beginner's book about a piano to reading the classic novels Animal Farm, graded at a level 3, Jane Eyre, which was graded as a level 4 book, and 1984, which was graded as a level 7, the highest level of graded readers. By choosing your first English books wisely, and if needed choosing a graded reader, you should have a very positive experience. So let's get on with my recommendations. Book number 1 is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. This book is by the famous American author Mark Twain, and it is one of the classic books of the 19th century, especially in terms of American fiction. It is the story of a young boy as he travels through the USA. If you enjoy adventure books, perhaps this one will be great for you. Let me read you a brief description from the Penguin Books website. Someone killed Huckleberry Finn. Everyone in the village of St. Petersburg will tell you this. But Huck Finn is not dead. He ran away. Now he is traveling down the great Mississippi River. Come with him on his adventures and meet many new people. Some of them are good, but some of them are bad. This book is available as a level 2 graded reader. So remember, the most advanced Penguin readers are graded level 7. If you like this book, you could also pick up The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by the same author. The next book on my list of recommendations is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I am a massive fan of George Orwell, and if you enjoy reading Animal Farm, I really recommend you also check out his book 1984. In fact, I've already made a podcast about George Orwell, I think. Yes, I did, about his writing recommendations. I guess Animal Farm would be the best described as a political satire, as it uses animals to tell a political story. Animal Farm tells the story of a rebellion by a group of farm animals and how that rebellion goes wrong. The animals' lives on the farm are terrible, there is not enough food, the work is hard, and the animals are dying. This book is actually based on the history of Russia and the Soviet Union. But I really, really recommend this one. And my student, who I mentioned earlier, she really loved this book. This book is available as a level 3 out of 7 graded reader. Next on my list is an excellent example of one of my favorite genres, spy novels. It is The Night Manager by the famous writer John le Carré. The first le Carré novel I ever read was Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which I think was made into a very successful movie. Actually, The Night Manager was also made into a successful TV show, if you'd like to watch the story on screen. Here is a short introduction. Jonathan Pine is the night manager of a hotel in Egypt. When he is shown some secret information, he passes it to a man in the British government. But things go wrong, and the woman he loves dies. Pine is very angry and agrees to work with others to catch Roger Roper, the worst man in the world. This book is available as a level 5 graded reader. You might be noticing that the levels of the readers are getting progressively higher. Level 5 readers include sentences with up to 4 clauses and introduce present perfect continuous, past perfect, reported speech, and second conditional grammar. Great Expectations. So Charles Dickens was undoubtedly one of the greatest English language novelists to have ever lived. He wrote so many amazing books, including A Christmas Carol, Oliver Twist, and A Tale of Two Cities. The book I want to recommend to you, however, is actually one I am currently listening to as an audiobook as I prepare for this episode. And that book is Great Expectations. When the orphan Pip is taken to the house of Miss Havisham, he meets and falls in love with Estella. Estella is beautiful, but cold, and Pip decides that he will become rich so that he can marry her. Later, he learns that somebody has given him a lot of money, but Pip does not know who this person is. This book is available as a level 6 graded reader. Level 6 graded readers have sentences with up to 4 clauses. They introduce future continuous, reported questions, third conditional, was going to, and ellipsis grammar. And the final book I want to recommend is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. You probably have heard of this book. It's one of the most famous books in the English language. It is a classic and an important piece of English literature. Here is a brief description for you. When the young sailor Ishmael decides to sail on the Pequod with the mysterious Captain Ahab, he has no idea about Ahab's plans to get revenge on the great white whale Moby Dick. Ahab wants to find and kill the whale at any cost, even if it means losing his ship and his crew. So here is today's final thought. In this episode, I have recommended 5 classic English novels, which are all available as English graded readers. These are excellent as they can help you read classic pieces of literature which would otherwise be too difficult. In fact, unless you are a very confident reader, I would really recommend picking up a graded reader first. If you find this list useful, I think I might make this a regular type of episode. And if there is enough demand, perhaps we could start a Thinking in English book club in the future. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Thinking in English. Please share with your friends, check out our social media links in the description, and send us a message. We really appreciate all of your feedback. And if you have any ideas for topics or future podcast guests or any other learning format, please let us know. And please leave me a rating. We're now on Instagram. I'm sure you've already seen it, but go there, check it out. Lots of good content about vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. And Instagram is a great way to contact me. It's Thinking in English Podcast on Instagram, or the link is in the description. Also, all of the transcripts of the podcast are now available on the Thinking in English blog. Vocabulary list, comprehension questions, and all of the articles are there for you to read. That link is also in the description, so please check it out too. Thank you, and see you next time.